Hello, and welcome to the Running in the Dark podcast, the podcast about business, not running. So, hi everyone, how has your week been? I've had the most amazing week off where I actually got married. Ta-da! So it's been a complete blur and came back to work on Monday and have very much been straight back to it. Had an awesome event about AI actually on Tuesday with the great team at Unlocking Potential. I got to do a talk all about how you bring your personality forward in your content without oversharing. So it's one of my favorite decks to do. Um, Now, without rambling, um, today's episode is probably the big one for me. When I listened back to it yesterday or the day before, it made me sad how emotional I was, and how raw it is. But even though time has passed since I recorded it, I still think it's really fundamentally important. I don't believe I'm the only person to ever feel this way when running their business. And I do actually have to give a trigger warning. I do briefly mention suicidal thoughts in today's episode. And today's episode is all about the fact that you can fall out of love with your business. No one talks about it. And today I am. So let me know what you think. Today's lesson. You can fall out of love with your business. Today's lesson is an interesting one. And I'm not even sure if it is a lesson, but it's something I definitely need to share with the world because I don't believe I'm the only person to ever fall out of love with their business. I want to take you back a few years. I went full-time and created my business when I was 26. I have been exceptionally lucky. I've had massive growth, but actually it became very fast growth. I remember describing it to a mentor as it felt like I was on a bolting horse. I knew we were moving fast. I knew we were going somewhere, but I felt like I had absolutely no control over it. It just felt like I had to keep moving. And I know that I am an entrepreneur. I know that if I see the opportunity to make money, I go for it. I grab it with both hands. It's an amazing skill set, but it can also be a bit of a character flaw. So my company was growing really fast. I was gaining clients. My team jumped up to 7 or 8. I was still only 28 at this time. And the pressure started to mount. From the outside, everyone would have thought it was amazing. I was winning awards. I was winning accolades. The work was coming in. We didn't have to chase any of it. My team was growing. I was hiring in kind of higher caliber people, and I was trying to build this company and build a structure. And no one knew that actually on the inside, I hated coming to work. The idea of opening up my emails in the morning gave me panic attacks. I would wake up in the morning absolutely full of dread. I would cry before going into my own office. It got to the point where I had to speak to the doctor. I was prescribed diazepam and some other quite strong antidepressants. And that was the first time someone said to me, a medical professional said to me, "You've got clinical exhaustion." Since then, that's happened about 4 or 5 times, but that's another story. Not only have you got clinical exhaustion, but it feels like you're unhappy. And I was. Somewhere in all of the excitement of pushing forwards and growing and doing what everyone was telling me I was meant to be doing. I was meant to be pushing for high growth. I was meant to be growing this company. I was meant to be riding the wheels of success. Within that, I forgot the reason I started. And I started my company so I could work 20 hours a week and ride my horse every day. I couldn't tell you the last time I've done that. But at this specific moment in time, I was easily working 12, 14-hour days. I was finding it hard. And every time I tried to mention to someone else that it wasn't perfect, I felt shut down and I felt like I was a failure. I don't believe there was any malice in there. I just think there is so much bravado in being a business owner and in being an entrepreneur. No one will turn around to you and go, do you know what? It's a bit shit right now. Or do you know what? I'm struggling. Or do you know what? I've had those moments where it was really tough, but I got through it. Every time I went somewhere, and if I even hinted that things weren't great in the hope of opening up a conversation with someone else, I was made to feel like a fool and a silly little girl. I felt overwhelmed. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how to handle it. From the outside, it looked amazing. I was winning awards. I had all these accolades. I had this big team. I had an office. Internally, I was losing money. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn to. It got to the point where I humanly couldn't open my emails without having a panic attack and crying. It got to the point where I had a conversation with my riding instructor. So me and my riding instructor have a very mother-daughter relationship. And I remember crying on her kitchen floor. And she said to me, I didn't realize all of this was going on. From the outside, it looks amazing. And I said to her, that's the thing. There are elements that are amazing, but it's everything else that goes with it that I am struggling with. And it seems to only be me. I seem to be the only business owner I know that feels this way. And I didn't know what to do. I wanted to just pack it all in. And I think if I'm honest with myself, if I didn't have staff, if we hadn't owed money as a company at that moment in time, I would have packed it all in. I would have just stopped going to work. But I felt like people relied on me. And I felt like I could at least sort out the finances enough to pay people back. Because that's the problem. When a company grows and it grows quickly, you hire staff, you bring in all these procedures, all these policies, and all of those things cost money, and it takes a while to get that money back. No one ever tells you that either. I have a first-class business degree, and you don't even cover that as part of a degree, which blows my mind. Everyone just tells you it's sweet and simple all the time. It's not. You grow, you hire, you expand, you have a cash crisis. Then you grow. It gets good again. But no one had told me that. I was in all of these support programs. I was the poster girl for some of these support programs. And it got to the point where I thought about killing myself because I didn't want to go to work. I don't know if I've admitted that it got that bad before, but it did. Genuinely, I hated it so much. So I had a conversation with Jane and I told her. So I struck a deal with Jane. On the 30th of June, if I still felt this way, I would stop. I'd pack it all in. That gave me headspace. That gave me a goal. I started writing lists. I started looking to notice and identify what stressed me out, what elements of my job I hated, and what elements of my job I loved. And luckily there was still enough there in the bits that I loved that made me want to carry on for those 6 months. I started to cut out the bits that I hated. I started to be ruthless. And that's something I'd never done before. I've got this innate thing where I want everyone to like me. And I had to start making tough decisions. I started saying no to people and things that upset me or stressed me out. I started to put boundaries in place. I started to make my company more controllable. We went quiet. It made me feel bad. I would go places and people would say to me, oh, you've been really quiet. We've not seen you recently. It made me feel really bad. It made me feel like I was doing a shit job, but actually I was healing and I was sorting myself out. And luckily I fell back in love with my company and my business, and I fell back in love with what I was doing. By the time the 30th of June rocked around, I wouldn't have dreamed of giving it up again. So not only can you fall out of love with your business, you can fall back in love with it. I would love to tell you that it's been simple ever since. There are still elements of my job that give me anxiety. My emails still stress me out, to the point where we now have 2 people managing my emails because I get that many comms. However, in the last few years, I have found ways to manage things. I have found ways to become accepting of the things I have to do in my business, and I've outsourced a lot of things I didn't want to do. If you are feeling the same way that I did, if your job is giving you anxiety, if you are feeling down and sad and unhappy with work, I just want you to know that you are not alone. I also want you to know that it does get better, and it is possible to fall back in love with your company and your job. Do what I did. Set yourself a date, because that gives you a target and it gives you clarity. Write a list of what you love and what you don't, and see if you can strip out those bits that you don't. Because that's the perks of being your own boss. You do get to create your own job. Please know that you are not alone, and it does get better. And, if no one else has ever felt this way, at least I've aired it from my chest. Thanks, everyone.
Hello, it's me again. I thought at the end of that episode it was worth me checking in again and just giving you a bit of an update. So as you can tell, at one point during running this company, I got in a really dark place. I did find it too much. I found it really overwhelming. And I think a big part of that was I got really caught up in it. I got really caught up in the high growth buzz, and I did forget the reason I started. I was really lucky to be able to reach out to people. And one thing I can say now, and I'm saying this without malice, and if anyone falls into this category, please forgive me. I found during that really difficult time when I was reaching out to advisors, and basically anybody that made money or got publicity from me, I found they were telling me to push through and keep going. And there was very little thought about me as a human being. On the flip side, when I spoke to my friends or, my riding instructor, people who cared about the human first, that is when I got the real advice. And that's where I got the real support that I needed. And one of the most important things you can have when running a business is someone you can trust and lean on who doesn't make money from you and who genuinely cares about you, the human being, first and foremost. Because running a business is really tough and it's really lonely. And this is a podcast about my darkest day of running a business. I'm really pleased to tell you it got better. And I absolutely love what I'm doing again, but my job looks so different. And, as I explained in a previous episode, I have managed to turn my job into something that I love again. In hindsight, I'm quite pleased I went through that awful time because I know I'm never going to let myself get into that position in space again. I'm going to try to prioritize myself as a human being more. If you are in that position, remember, just because you start a business, it doesn't mean you have to stick at it if it's not working for you, if it's making you miserable, if it's not the right thing. You are not letting anyone down. The only constant you'll ever have in your life is you. You are the most important thing. And if you're feeling like that, the best advice I can give you is do what I did. Set that deadline. If you love it again, by that deadline, great. If you still hate it, go and do something else because life is too short to be unhappy. So I really hope today's been helpful. I really hope it's resonated with at least one person. As always, please let me know, reach out to me. I'm on every social media network at Also Katherine, and this is a really important episode for me. So I really, really hope from the bottom of my heart it has been helpful. And I look forward to seeing you next week.